Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our session on Python programming. Although we are discussing concept of functions, I plan to divert from this particular topic. And as we had decided earlier, this week we'll do something which is more of a fun in Python. But we'll also be using concept of functions. But before we do that, before we go ahead learning turtle programming in Python, before we do that, we will actually explore or complete the discussion on the assignment that was given to you. I had given you an assignment of Pig Latin, and only like always, Ashish has submitted. What about Prithviraj and Kaustubh?
एक्चुअली सर कल मैंने लेक्चर नहीं किया और सर तो आज थोड़ा काम में बिजी था इसलिए हुआ नहीं.
Prithviraj?
No,
Now what happened? Yesterday you did not do it, you forgot. What happened today?
I was late to come back from college.
It was not about coming back from the college. It was like before you going to the college, you should have completed. These are lame excuses. I don't buy them. Anyway, let's look at what Ashish has done. So he writes a function called as getString, which returns a string. He writes a function Pig Latin. Ashish, between any two functions, make sure that you put at least 1 or 2 lines gap. Okay, so it is easy to understand where that function gets over. Let me open up this particular thing in Spider so that we can quickly test it. So while the Spider starts, let's look at his function called as getString. He says input string is equal to input, enter a string, and then he splits the string. Okay. And for I in input string, if not is alpha. Oh, my string can be, my room number is 12. Okay. So it could be integers as well, Ashish. So, and we'll still do the same thing. Okay. But if not is alpha, enter only alphabets. Okay, you're keeping it as alphabet. If not is alpha for I in input string, that means every letter, every word inside this particular string, is it alphabet or not? So you want string only with alphabets. Okay, input string is equal to get string. Why are you using recursive function again? Okay, avoid using recursion. I'm seeing since yesterday, you're keen to use recursion. That's something that can be very easily avoided. So there was no such compulsion for you to go in for this getString to be as I'll call this as getString 1, and let's rewrite this function without using recursion. You may find it easy, but recursion are the most complex thing in terms of memory. They utilize a lot of memory and they're difficult to debug as well. But memory utilization is far higher. If user enters wrong input 5 times, believe me, it will be 5 instances of that function that will get loaded in the memory. So recursion is recommended only when, what is recursion for others? From within a function, we are giving a call to itself. A recursion is recommended only when you want to bring down the size of the program. Now, how small can you make this particular program? It's already 4 5 lines program. So I would not recommend you to use recursion at any other place. It's a bad choice to make. It is heavy on memory because I'll not explain in detail, but I'll give the answer and explanation, you'll find it later. Every function call creates an instance of the function. So if I use function recursively, multiple instances of the same function gets loaded in the memory. So stack memory utilization increases. You may also fall short of memory in the stack if recursion fails. So it's not a good idea to use recursion. So I will not accept recursion as of now, at least for this simple purpose. So since you have taken this, and if it doesn't work out right, anyway, you have this while true. Na? You just have to come out of this for loop. Okay, and if I come out of the for loop, you're not going to go here. So if it is not alphabet, you'll say, please enter string containing only alphabets. Containing only alphabets. And what could you say here? Break. Break will take you out of that for loop. So once you come out of the for loop, you'll obviously go to while loop. So the only time when you will come across out of this, if all were this, I could have said else, if entire for loop was executed, you could have just said break. This break will take you out of whereas the earlier break will terminate for loop. Why? Because this break is encountered inside the for loop, so it will terminate that for loop. When I say else, that means this else will get executed when this condition becomes false. That means everything, the for loop was successfully executed. Then I'll say break. That will take you out of this. Okay, so that's how simple it was to eliminate it. So there is obviously no need for you to go in for concept of recursion. और अगर आप recursion use करने वाले थे तो इस loop की जरूरत नहीं थी. बिना इसके भी वो काम कर जाता आशीष.
Yes.
तो ये भाई उसकी भी जरूरत नहीं थी. अगर आपको recursion भी यूज करना था तो भी वो बिना लूप के काम करेगा. Always think about non-recursive code instead of writing recursive code. So I call this function as getString. So we have made changes. So this will accept a string containing only alphabets. Okay. Then we say pig Latin. That's a string that you're going to pass. It has to be a list. No, not acceptable. Because we are read the question, Ashish. Question photo.
It takes single string as an argument.
ये string है क्या?
नहीं.
No. You could have very well taken the string and split into list. That was okay. But this basic assumption is wrong. A validation is wrong. So this should have been of type string. This should have been of type string. If it is not of type string, you should have generated error. The input to function pig Latin should be a string. Is what I said. And then when we wanted that thing to be converted to a list, you could very well do that. You could just say inp underscore str is equal to and why call it as str then? It is list. I'll say inp list. A list app. Why call it as str? So we got it. Result a ले लिया, suffix a y ले लिया, and for input list है. ये list है आप क्या करें? List है str1 I colon 2. क्या करें str1 में I what is I? Okay. The all characters other than the first two letters. Okay. And then str2 is equal to 2 colon, that means the first two letters. So ये क्या दे रहा है आशीष?
The first two letters. और नीचे वाला बाकी का.
फिर अपेंड कर रहे str1 plus str2 plus suffix, यानी str2 ले लिया, बाकी ये सारे कैरेक्टर्स के आगे str1 ऐड कर लिया, फिर suffix ऐड कर लिया और उसे रिजल्ट में अपेंड किया. रिजल्ट इज अ लिस्ट. नो, वी डिड नॉट वांट टू रिटर्न लिस्ट. हमें स्ट्रिंग ही रिटर्न करना था. एनीवे, तो अगर ये आ भी गया है तो दैट शुडंट बी अ प्रॉब्लम. सपोज इफ आई हैव अ लिस्ट and if I have some words or strings, and if you print this list, if that is the one, I could join them. So I said between them, I just want to have a space. So you could very well join them. तो ये आपने बना भी दिया है, so I could join them saying we are returning a string. We are going to accept a string and return a string. When you do this annotation, यहाँ मुझे space नहीं चाहिए, यहाँ space ठीक है, यहाँ operators में ठीक है, not over here, not during annotation. So I return a string. So here we have input string. No, ये कुछ नहीं लेना चाहिए. Why do you want it? ये list वाला कुछ नहीं. Get string कहा and pig Latin कहा. So I should just say print. यूजर को pig Latin देना चाहिए, इतना झंझट कौन बोलेगा? Instead of I, I'll say for token. It's one element inside it. So the string is broken into tokens, parts. So एक token हम लग रहे हैं इसमें से. इन सबको append कर रहे हैं. Result क्या लिया है? आपने list लिया, list में आपने append कर लिया. Append करते समय क्या कर लिया? तो this plus this is equal to this. Okay, सारे tokens append कर लिए. And then we join them to return the thing.
सर गेट स्ट्रिंग का जो रिटर्न है ना वो लिस्ट जो इनपुट स्ट्रिंग है वो स्प्लिट किया.
आपने स्प्लिट किया हुआ है.
इसको भी ज्वाइन.
You split into tokens. I'll say token. Don't say I. I doesn't give an idea what I is. Token, we understand, okay, it's been broken into various tokens. And every token we check, is it an alphabet or not? If it is not, we'll say enter only alphabets, and then we come out and we return. So this return will not be part of while loop, it is outside the while loop. So when we break and come out of the while loop, there is where we return. Let's test this code. Pig Latin function. Enter the string. I say she is very smart. Original string is she is very smart. And ES E, that is then HE SH AY, that's correct. ISAY, that's also right. Very ka, okay, that's also right. Smart ka SN bahar chale jaye. ART SM Acha, I misspelled it. So that's perfect. Now it will work right. So that will create a big Latin string. So Ashish wrote, we improvised on that particular code to get the final answer. So this is what was expected. Okay, I would not recommend this. Let's still try get string 1 se kya hoga. Let's see. Does it work? Recursive call. Enter string and enters she is 12. I only enter only alphabets. I say she is aged 12. It works. That will also work. So I'll say this is a non-recursive implementation. Which I would recommend to use. I'll write over here recommended to use. Recommended. Sometimes recursive is also required, especially when the code size is large. But I'll say not recommended. Now let's look at these codes and think over, is there any improvement that we can bring about? Now it is working right. So correctness has now been checked for. Now, can we improve on this? Let's see. Okay, I can decompose it even further. Here, what we had done was only a part of validation and nothing more. This was just to check whether string contains all alphabets. So what I could do is I could decompose this particular code. Here, there's an opportunity for us to decompose. So what would I do? I would write a function. So in this case, I will be shared with one problem. So I will not split it. Watch it. I will not split it. I'll take this code and I'm going to define a new function. I remember I told you our code size should not be more than 4 or 5 lines. That's our objective. So wherever possible, we'll try and achieve that particular objective. I say def. Hey, there's too big a how did I miss out? आशीष, ये टोकन्स में ब्रेक करके आपने चेक किया इसके अंदर स्ट्रिंग से डिजिट है कि नहीं? अरे पूरे को एक लाइन में चेक कर लेते ना, क्यों हर एक टोकन के अंदर है कि नहीं चेक कर रहे?
सर वो स्पेस
का इश्यू आएगा. वेरी करेक्ट. So एक issue था only for space. Had it been only one string without space, that was okay. So I need to now give a name to a function. क्या नाम दे function को? It's a function which will return a Boolean value, either true or false. So it's a function that will return a Boolean value. It will take a string as an argument. Which is of type string. It will return a Boolean value. And it's going to return either true or false. But I need to give a name to the function in which are all token strings. I want to check. Are all tokens strings. So I take a string, break into tokens, and I'm going to write the code that you have written. I'm going to paste this code over here. And I will indent an indent. Input string dot str dot. I don't have to worry about it. So user gets a string. I'm going to accept a string. I'm going to check other than what it. Let's do that. If not token is alpha, I'll print an error message. I'll not print this error message over here. Here, I'll just return. And this part of the piece of the code, I'll write over here. Don't worry. Once we get this input string, I'm going to check if are all tokens that means if this particular function is going to return true or false. If it is true, I return INP str, else see how we are changing the code. Yeah, okay, else colon is missing. So what am I doing? I have an infinite loop. I ask the user to enter a string. I check if are all tokens string. I pass this input string. We take this input string, we split it into tokens. We split that particular string into we split the string into tokens. If not is alpha, कहीं भी अगर कोई भी token alphabet अगर नहीं है, we will return false. If all tokens have been exhausted, we will return true. I don't even have to say else part over here. I could just say return true, just to reduce the size of the code even further. And if for loop se bahar aaga to return true. So I'm just reducing the number of lines of code that we have to write. Here I'm saying while true. And here also there is no need of else part. If you can understand this. If are all tokens string, if this function returns true, I'll say return input string. Otherwise, I'll print a message, enter string containing only alphabets. If this condition is false, I'll come over here, I'll print this message, and we are still inside the loop. So we have functions which have been decomposed further. So when I tell you we have to decompose the code to such an extent that it cannot be further decomposed, this is what I mean. That means we will not be in a position to decompose the function any further. Plus, there is another problem, that mistake that you have done. Here, you are again, actually get string function here. Okay. Get string, may you asking enter a string containing only alphabets, I should say. Okay, enter a string containing only alphabets. And I'll print a error message string contains characters other than alphabets and enter string containing only alphabets. So look at the function size that has now been reduced. So decompose कर लिया. यहाँ भी कहीं scope था. पहले run करके देखते हैं. Decompose तो कर लिया, whether it is running. So I ask the user to enter the string. कहाँ गया enter the string? I'll stop this code. We'll run the code once again. कहाँ लिखा है enter the string? Did I not save this file? Enter string. कहाँ लिखा है enter string? I'm calling get string 1. I should call get string. Okay. Enter string contain only alphabets. I enter string. stored first in the class. String contains characters other than alphabets. Entry string contains only alphabets. So I say he stood first in the class. The original string is he stood first in the class, and आपका pig Latin है he ay stood में का stod first के अंदर का fi rst fi ay and in the class. That means rest is all correct. So this is how I would write the code. We have decomposed it to an extent that it cannot be further decomposed. Yani, we had a function earlier that was also right, where this particular part of the code. Now, what is this? I can reuse it. So anytime further, I would like to check whether the string contains only alphabets and spaces. So in that case, are all token strings? That means every part of that string, every word that is there inside the string, or are tokens, if every word is a string, you can say. And then whatever it is, you could split and you could return true or false. So I'll just comment this thing out, although it is working right. But this is what I mean by decomposing the code. So I now have written a code which can be further used. We'll talk about this later. यहाँ लिखा हमने input get string कर लिया. So you come to get string. Get string में you accept a string from the user, and you're going to return the input string if all tokens in the string are strings. If all tokens inside this input string are strings, if that is true, I'll return the input string. Otherwise, I'll print an error message and we'll continue with the code. So that's how you design the program. It's not just about you writing the correct code. It's also about decomposition. Divide the code in such a way so it can facilitate reuse. यानी यही काम आपको किसी और program में करना है तो आप ये उठा सकते हो अभी. If this was the part of the function that you had the way you had written it earlier, then I'll not be in position to reuse the code. Our objective is to improve reusability of the program. And this is how you can improve the reusability of the code. Have you all understood this particular code and the purpose why I decomposed it? Yes or no? पीयूषा क्या डाउट है? आशीष प्रोग्राम का नाम क्या है?
piglatinfunction.py.
So I've shared this particular file with you, piglatinfunction.py. Open up that code, go through that particular code, and ask if you have any questions. It could be regarding the logic, it could be regarding the design. कैसा क्यों लिखा है? You could ask. कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहेगा, then you could ask.
सर पैलिंड्रोम आ गया गलती से.
अच्छा पैलिंड्रोम भेजा क्यों है? तो क्या था प्रोग्राम का नाम?
Piglatin function.
Piglatin function. आ गया?
Yes.
सर
Yes, please.
सर उसमें पहले फंक्शन में तो हम स्ट्रिंग का वैलिडेशन कर रहे हैं तो फिर बाद में फिर से वो इज इंस्टेंस क्यों चेक किया?
Let me open the code. कहाँ किया वैलिडेशन बताइए. बोलो कहाँ बात कर रहा है?
अच्छा सर सबसे पहले जो स्ट्रिंग चेक किया ना सर, स्ट्रिंग का वैलिडेशन किया ना गेट स्ट्रिंग में, तो फिर बाद में फिर ये इज इंस्टेंस यूज किया ना.
Who will answer this question? Who will answer this question? Well, this was the same question that I answered yesterday. दोस्तों कह रहा है अगर यहाँ वैलिडेशन किया जा चुका है तो आप दोबारा पिगलैटिन फंक्शन में क्यों चेक कर रहे हो कि इनपुट सप्लाइड इज स्ट्रिंग और नॉट? कोई जरूरी है दोस्तों if I'm going to use this function, is it necessary that function should be preceded by this function?
नहीं
ऐसा
सर
कोई जरूरी है? ऐसा
नहीं।
हो नहीं सकता क्या यूजर एक स्ट्रिंग पास करे
हाँ।
और वो ऐसे रहे? फंक्शन लिख रहे हैं ना, आई एंटर स्ट्रिंग, ये पहले के लिए काम किया, ये दिस इज माय सेकंड स्ट्रिंग के लिए काम कर रहा है. तो थर्ड टाइम व्हेन यूजर इज गिविंग अ कॉल, never design function, listen to my statement very carefully, henceforth in any programming language, never design a function whose correct behavior is guaranteed only if the previous call is to some other function. ऐसा function नहीं चाहिए. The function independently, suppose tomorrow you only import this function from this file,
okay
and you are not going to take this getString function. So can you provide me assurance that the validation will already be done by the user?
no
No. So here now user call gives us third call. This is, I'll say, third string. Now when I supply this is the third string, and user has all the rights because its question says write a function piglatin which takes a string as an argument. So we were smart that we have written this function for validation of string, getting the string, but user may directly pass a string because question says accept write a function which takes a string as an argument. So he writes a string. So I take this string as first, and this is third string. So now here this 3 was passed.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do the validation even over here in instance input string of type string, and ये जो हमने पास किया है that has been taken up to be of type string, यानी यहाँ validation की और जरूरत है, यानी validation का कोड लिखना होगा. सपोज ये 123 हमने कोड्स डाल दिया डॉट, क्या लिखा आपने, is alpha, नहीं is of type instance देखा आपने, is alpha चेक कीजिए क्या. So I should check over here is this dot is instance, actually is instance this of type comma string. तो ये ट्रू कह रहा है, तो इससे काम नहीं चलेगा because anything that I given double quotes is a string. That means ये जो हमने यहाँ validation किया था are all token strings. That means that validation we'll have to do here again. We want an assurance कि it's all type string.
Yeah.
तो I'll again do the same thing over here. अगर ये सही है तो ठीक. That means if not, I'll write only change that I do is I'll say if not. So validation is a must. Or if not, I'll say if not, all tokens are raise input error. Now, when I'm passing this third string, it should generate an error. Enter the first string. I say FIRST first. Input should be, yeah, बराबर आ गया. ये फर्स्ट का तो उसने कर लिया, सेकंड का भी कर लिया, और थर्ड के लिए it has raised an error saying input to the function piglatin should be string, and that is for this string. This is the third string. इस example के लिए आ गया. So validation is a must at every place because a function can be used directly. There is no reason why the way he had written, there was an assumption that user, whenever he calls piglatin, it is required for him to accept the string by using getString. Why? He may directly pass getString, a string. So those kind of validation actually, and now look at this reuse. Now, if I had written this code inside this, then I would not have been in a position to reuse that validation over here. Now, this validation function that we have written, we could use it over here. Good if the user calls it by that function, we could also use it over here. So we have now designed a function piglatin. In whatever format you pass a string, it will ensure that it contains only alphabets. If it contains anything other than alphabets, it should generate error. The input function piglatin should be a string containing only alphabets. alphabets. Because what is happening over here, I may pass even integers, but I'm going to pass in double quotes or single quotes. So even if I pass integer in double quotes, single quotes, वो कहेगा वो string ही है. So that validation that he had done was not appropriate. We had to call this function for validation. Are all tokens in the string are of type strings? It will just return true or false. So ये हो गया आपका reusability. Function that has been used over here has also been used over here. Validation is a must at all the places. Because user may not promise you that before I call this function, the string that I'm going to accept will be accepted by using getString function. ऐसा कोई promise नहीं है आपके पास. And neither you should have such kind of dependencies. ये dependency हो गया. For a function to work correctly, you should have called B function before that. That means A is dependent on B. Then you better call B from inside A. Yeah, we are calling it B from inside A. Don't have that dependency. And user को responsible मत दो. तू ये function call करने के पहले ये function call कर. Never give such kind of responsibility to the user. So look where we started and where we have ended. ये आशीष का ये logic सिर्फ हमने use किया है, which was the core logic, but design has completely changed. His core logic was correct. ये उसका core logic था. The core logic was correct, but design has totally changed. और यहाँ भी क्या necessary था, क्या हम लोग लिस्ट ले लें? अगर मैं लिस्ट नहीं लेता तो काम करता क्या? It will work without a list as well. बताता मैं. Empty string. This was wrong. Let us keep this thing aside and run the code directly. Regularity of the input string is alright. Need not take a list. You could also take a string, empty string, and that empty string plus a space plus string 2 plus string 1 and आपका suffix जो भी है, what is the suffix? Or you could use list and then you could join it. Your choice. आपको जो चाहिए. I'll just keep both the options open.
वो starting का एक space आ रहा है output में.
That can be taken care of. That would not be a challenge. यहाँ जो मैं space डाल रहा हूँ वो आगे डालूंगा plus. I'll just show you. That shouldn't be much of a challenge. मैंने copy किया हुआ है ये. I'll just show you. ये आपका कोड है। ये पिगलाइटिन 1 किसे कॉल करता हूँ? एक पिगलाइटिन से कॉल करता हूँ, एक पिगलाइटिन 1 से कॉल करता हूँ। दोनों का रिजल्ट बिल्कुल एक जैसा आना चाहिए। आ गए दोनों एकदम एक जैसा। डिक्टो। एक जगह मैंने पिगलाइटिन कॉल किया, एक जगह पिगलाइटिन 1 कॉल किया। तो दिस वाज अल्टरनेट फंक्शन। तो यहाँ लिखा है अल्टरनेट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन यूजिंग स्ट्रिंग इंस्टेड ऑफ लिस्ट। इस केस में हमने लिस्ट यूज किया था एज अ रिजल्ट, एम्प्टी लिस्ट। और यहाँ मैं यूज कर रहा है एम्प्टी स्ट्रिंग। एम्प्टी स्ट्रिंग दोनों सही है, तरीका अलग है। तो वी हैव अल्टरनेट इम्प्लीमेंटेशंस। स्ट्रिंग लेने का भी अलग अलग तरीके, पिगलाइटिन फाइंड करने के भी अलग अलग तरीके। कोर लॉजिक तो वही है, एक जगह आपने लिस्ट में अपेंड किया, एक जगह आपने स्ट्रिंग को अपेंड कर लिया है। These are all various functions which are present inside the string. ऑपरेटर प्लस से हमने ऐड कर लिया। सो ये स्टेटमेंट अलग है और यहाँ ये स्टेटमेंट अलग है। Okay, so there are multiple options which are available, but we had decomposed that particular code significantly. We could also think, can we have reduced this particular thing in any way? I could have done that. Instead of taking this, I could have directly taken this token of 2 plus token of 1. ये वाला ये token directly यहाँ लिख देता, why assign it to a variable where I can directly pass it? So just to show what could have been done, so this I could write over here. This I could write over here and get rid of it. I'm just saying, what does it do? Extra is the first two, and if you could comment out just to tell the user what we are doing. ये ऑपरेशन, तो इस फंक्शन में, इस लूप में एक ही लाइन रहेगी। That's it. And return result. वो जो एक्सप्रेशन है वो हम लोग नीचे लिख के रखेंगे, ये आपका रिटर्न रिजल्ट खत्म। और ये टोकन 1 टोकन 2 क्या है, तो ये है शिफ्ट टैब टू एडजस्ट इट। तो अगर आपको ये टोकन 2 टोकन 1 नहीं याद आ रहा है तो ये उसका एक्सप्लेनेशन नीचे दिया हमने, बट द प्रोग्राम गेट्स ओवर। सो रिजल्ट प्लस ये प्लस दिस प्लस सफिक्स। सफिक्स इसमें भी इंप्रूव कर सकते हैं। सफिक्स कहाँ डिफाइन किया अपनी? सफिक्स ये कांस्टेंट है, यहाँ भी ये कांस्टेंट है, तो आई शुड हैव इंपोर्टेड फाइनल, लेट्स से from typing import final. या फिर फंक्शन के अंदर लिख देंगे इनपुट टाइपिंग। आई एम टेलिंग व्हाई, ये रीयूज कर सकते हैं हम लोग कहीं तो प्रोग्राम, तो जरूरी था कि सिर्फ फंक्शन को ही रीयूज करे, तो ये टाइपिंग मॉड्यूल भी आना चाहिए। और ऐसे when you just look at the code, there are so many changes that we can do. ये फाइनल था, तो सफिक्स इस टाइपिंग फाइनल है, स्ट्रिंग टाइप का है, AY वो स्ट्रिंग है, वो सफिक्स हम लोग यहाँ ऐड कर रहे हैं। So writing good quality code takes lots of thinking. It's not just about getting the logic right. So these are changes that we have done. I'm sharing the updated version of the code once again. The name of the program is function file intro. Function pigletting, sorry. Check if all of you have got it. Company has done something very different. I just want to check it out. His name of his program is pigletting.py. Let's check what has he done. He has completed the task only in one line.
But sir, it is for only one word.
One word से मैंने कहा था आगे जाना है आपको. That's what I was wondering, एक इसमें कैसे हो गया? Okay. And function should return का है ना, तो function का काम print करना नहीं है, function का काम return करना है, तो ये return यहाँ करोगे आप get piglet में, वो print कर सकते हैं आप. तो function ने print नहीं करना चाहिए था, function ने अगर one word का भी था तो यहाँ लिखना चाहिए था return. Getting my point?
Yes.
Yes, function का काम return करना था. ये फंक्शन का काम था, अगर वन वर्ड भी है, वन वर्ड लेने का तो प्रिंट करा, क्या करना है वो अपनी मर्जी है. आपकी मर्जी है. That was only for one word. I said one word से शुरू करो, रुको नहीं कहा था वन वर्ड के लिए. वन वर्ड के लिए हो गया, तो अब यही लॉजिक आप हर एक टोकन के लिए अप्लाई कर सकते हैं. तो what you could have done, just will वैलिडेशन का कोड आप ऐड करो. ये वैलिडेट नहीं है कोड, गेट स्ट्रिंग जो हमने लिखा था. अब लुक एट दिस. अब हाउ विल आई रीडिजाइन दिस कोड? चलो इसी में रीडिजाइन करते हैं यूजिंग दिस लॉजिक दैट ही हैज गिवन. ये जो लॉजिक दिया है पिगलेटिंग, ये लॉजिक यूज करते हैं हम. ये गेट पिगलेटिंग फंक्शन का इस्तेमाल करते हैं फर्दर डिकम्पोजिशन इन दिस प्रोग्राम. तो ये गेट पिगलेटिंग 1 जो है ना, वो इस फंक्शन को कॉल करेगा, गेट पिगलेटिंग वर्ड या गेट वर्ड पिगलेटिंग. हम कॉल दिस एज गेट टोकन पिगलेटिंग, टोकन का पिगलेटिंग. ओके, गेट टोकन पिगलेटिन, ये रिटर्न करेगा आपको वापस वही सफिक्स क्या चाहिए था, तो इंपोर्ट टाइपिंग। ध्यान से देखो अभी मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, इंपोर्ट टाइपिंग एंड सफिक्स को डिफाइन कर लेते हैं, सफिक्स ay और रिटर्न कर लिया। ऐसे I'm going to write one more function, def piglatin 3 या piglatin 2, input string should be of type string, it should return string, ऐसा अपना function है, and you do this validation. You'll do the same validation here as well. Watch it, huh? Are all tokens this? It's checking out. Okay. In beauty. Are all tokens this? If it is not, there is an error. So this was just a validation. After we have done the validations, okay, what I'm going to do? I'm going to run a loop. This figure is reduced. पाइथॉनिक वैसे कोड लिखना है, तो इसको और छोटा कर लिया, एक दो लाइन कम कर लिया। अब here we are going to write piglatin 2. So once I've done the validation, I'll run through all the tokens. So this is the loop that I'm going to write. This is the loop that I'm going to write. But what I'm going to do here is, I'll say result plus get token piglatin, and here I pass the token. ये जो आपका एक वर्ड का था ना, तो मैं आपके लॉजिक को एक्सटेंड कर रहा हूँ शंतु, कि आप हर बार वो एक वर्ड भेजोगे और वो वर्ड का पिगलैटिन लोगे और वो रिजल्ट में ऐड करोगे। ऐसा यानी ये जो लॉजिक आपने लिखा था टू क्रिएट पिगलैटिन, मैं कहता रिजल्ट जो रिजल्ट प्लस गेट टोकन का पिगलैटिन, जो टोकन है आपका उसका पिगलैटिन लोगे, यानी वर्ड का पिगलैटिन लोगे, वो पास करोगे, ऐसा भी लिख सकते हैं। एंड रिटर्न रिजल्ट, दैट मींस यू डू नॉट हैव टू राइट दिस कोड। इसका फायदा क्या है, कल जाके मुझे किसी और प्रोग्राम में वर्ड का पिगलैटिन चाहिए तो ये मेरे पास अवेलेबल है। सॉरी कहा गया वो, या गेट टोकन पिगलैटिन है तो किसी एक सिंगल वर्ड के लिए भी है और ये सेंटेंस के लिए बन जाएगा। एंड दिस इज ओनली फॉर वन वर्ड, रीयूजेबिलिटी है। So many different ways you could write the program. So I'm sharing this file. तो शंतु ने क्या किया, आपके एक वर्ड को पिगलैटिन करने वाले प्रोग्राम को हमने रिपीटेडली कॉल किया, so that every token that we have supplied is also taken care of.
Yes.
कौन सी फाइल में लिखा मैंने, फंक्शन पिगलैटिन, कहाँ है फाइल? D column में. So I'm sharing the file once again. Rename that file and use it because it's of the same name, but this will have multiple implementations now. Have you all received the file?
Yes, sir.
So, बताइए, what was your learning? Chandanu, क्या था आपका learning with after all this discussion that we did for 1 hour?
तो सर लर्निंग यही था कि इन अ पाइथनिक वे कि हम लोग मतलब एक ही तरीके से मतलब एक चीज को मल्टीपल तरीके से कर सकते हैं उसको
वो एक learning
छोटे
है.
से
That means
yes
there is no one logic to do the thing. There are multiple ways to get that work done.
yes
That's
and
one
in
learning.
Pythonic way we can do it in the shortest method
Yeah, we
like
can do
in
it
C और
Python.
कुछ
Very correct.
उसमें मतलब प्रोसेस स्टेप्स फॉलो करते हैं बट यहाँ पे we can do combine all the steps into single step or I mean few lines in few lines we can
Point is what, and just to rephrase what you're saying, whatever support that Python provides, we should make use of that features that
yes
Python has. Rather than एक बहुत important चीज है यहाँ. Python और C प्रोग्राम में डिफरेंट क्या है? आशीष ने शायद C प्रोग्राम किया है तो वो he is taking unnecessary responsibilities. So the world is more moving towards functional programming where we now have to believe on the libraries which have been supplied. Languages have matured. A lot of inbuilt support has been provided. Client is more interested in you solving his problem in most efficient way. Nobody is interested in knowing whether you did it on your own or you made use of the library. At the end of the day, the result, the solution that you design should fulfill the requirement of the client in most efficient manner, memory-wise, speed-wise, resource-wise, and time-wise. So if Python is providing inherent support, functionalities, and we are working in Python, why there should be insistence of rewriting the entire code when whatever support that Python as a language provides, why not use that particular support to get the work done? So that's Pythonic way of writing the code, where it will make use of whatever support that the standard libraries or built-in libraries provide in Python. Prithviraj, what was your learning?
I was going to say the same thing, like Python has a lot of libraries. So when I even do C programming, there is a lot of small things that you have to take care of. In Python, you can just import libraries, math, and different things that help us.
Okay, Rahul, how about you?
Never write a function that is dependent on another function.
That was very important. Never write a function with an assumption that इस function के पहले इस function के बाद कोई call करेगा तो ही मेरा function सही काम करेगा. So
Yes.
there should not be functional dependencies. Databases में है ना? If anybody has done database, ओमकार तुम्ही केलं ना database?
येस सर.
आठवते का database मध्ये functional dependencies?
नाही सर एवढं ऍडव्हान्स नाही झालं अजून सर. म्हणजे प्रोसिजर नाही झालं.
Okay, so there should not be functional dependency. One function's work should not be dependent on execution of some other function. Every function should be independently, should work correctly. ऐसा ना हो कि ये function सही काम नहीं किया इसलिए मेरा function है. Before I call my function, some other function we have to call. ऐसा कोई compulsion नहीं चाहिए. दोस्तों, what was your learning?
सर reusability of functions सर.
Reusability चाहिए. Design ऐसा चाहिए कि जो काम मैं आज किया हूँ दोबारा जिंदगी में I need not repeat the same thing again. I should be in a position to reuse. I'm going to show you ये जो functions आपने लिखे हैं, we used in this program twice validation का code. We can use it in another file as well. Next टॉपिक अपना मॉड्यूल है, वहाँ यही जो आशीष का कोड है उसी में के फंक्शन हम लोग वहाँ यूज करेंगे without rewriting. जैसे you say import math, likewise I'll say import function pig Latin, and I'll start using the functions that he has designed. So reusability, functional dependency, standard library usage, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट. आशीष आपके लिए क्या लर्निंग है?
सर जितना हो सके उतना रिकर्शन अवॉइड करना चाहिए क्योंकि उससे मल्टीपल इंस्टेंसेस क्रिएट होते हैं वेरिएबल्स के और उससे मेमोरी यूसेज का ज्यादा
होता है. Just who has told you that string that we are going to take a pig Latin या इनपुट स्ट्रिंग लोगे वो यूजर एक बार ही गलत इनपुट देगा, वो 100 बार गलत इनपुट दे सकता है. तो क्या आप 100 कॉपी चाहोगे फंक्शन के क्रिएट करना?
नो सर.
ओके, So avoid recursion wherever possible. And I'll show you cases where recursion is recommended as well. Yani, if it makes easy to understand the logic, use recursion. But that should result into reducing the complexity of the code in terms of at least understanding. Sometimes, if especially data structure, mein agar aapne implement kiya, anybody has learned, when you create binary search tree, binary trees, if you use recursion, then the code becomes very easy to understand, to explain. And without non-recursive functions, even for traversal of binary tree, agar aapne pre-order, post-order, in-order traversal ke bare mein suna hai, they're quite difficult to implement non-recursively. And recursive code is like cakewalk. बिना समझे भी बाहर हो जाता है. 4 लाइन का कोड है, नॉन रिकर्सिव 25 लाइन लगेंगे या एटलीस्ट 20 लाइन लगेंगे. तो in those cases where the complexity can be reduced by writing a recursive code, there we could use it. Otherwise, one shouldn't go in for recursive code. Substantial gain चाहिए, reason चाहिए why I should go in for recursion. Otherwise, recursion use नहीं करेंगे.
If recursion reduces the time required to execution time,
It never happens. It increases the time. तो अगर टाइम रिड्यूस करने के लिए आप रिकर्शन यूज कर रहे हो तो यू आर मेकिंग अ रॉन्ग चॉइस. इट नेवर हैपेंस. कैन यू शो मी वन इंस्टेंस जहां टाइम रिड्यूस होगा?
I was asking like if you want to reduce the time but the code is complex.
No, time of writing the code can reduce. But देखिए, we are not writing the code for our convenience. We are writing the code for the customer's convenience. So we should the first preference should be given to the execution time, not the development time. So your effort should be less, that is okay. But आप efforts कम लोगे और user को run करते समय ज़्यादा resources use करने के लिए कहोगे, that is not acceptable. So the time that you should give consideration is execution time and not development time. Development time आप देखो, आप मेहनत लो, but execution performance में compromise नहीं चाहिए. Just because I could finish the code quickly, and user is going to run that code 10 years henceforth. Every day he is going to take more time to run that code. That's not acceptable. Is that okay? And keep in mind, even if you understand, you don't understand what I say, recursion takes more time. Recursion takes more memory. And I can show you with proof about it, but it's just too early for me to talk about memories and show you the impact on the memory. But there are tools through which I can show you the amount of memory that has been utilized. There is one tool that I'm going to teach you. One such tool that I'm going to teach you called as Valgrind and something, where we can have the statistics about the utilization of memory as well. But it's just a bit too early. It's best to talk about memory utilization, how much memory has been utilized when you learn data structures, when you are working with C, C++. In Python, just believe it will take more memory. And every function call is costly. Because when you call a function, there is a lot that thing happens. When you call a function frame is created in the memory. Local variables are created. A state of the function is established. Function is instantiated. जैसे आप list create करते हो, list का एक object बन जाता है. So every time you call a function, remember, function is instantiated. A copy of the function gets created in the memory. And when I say copy, लोगों को लगता है कई बार कि function के code की copy बनती है. Code नहीं. The data that is there, the state of the function. Every function call has a separate state. State is like, अभी मेरा state क्या है? मेरी एक आँख छोटी है, एक आँख बड़ी है आज. So that is my state today. Is it always going to remain the same tomorrow? Tomorrow, my both eyes, when my eye is cured, probably it will look normal. It's the same person, but two different states at two different times. So you may feel if I'm Ashish had called that function, एक ही program में call किया, अरे but एक program में दो अलग समय पे call किया वो function. So when a function is called, it remembers from which line it has been called, because when it returns, it has to go back to the same place. So when you call a function, information about which place from the program the function has been called is also passed to that function. So when the function execution gets over, the control is correctly returned to the place from where the function has been called. It's called as function's return address. Okay, we have been looking at function's return value, but function also has a return address wherein the function knows where am I supposed to return the value. From where was I called? जहाँ से मुझे call किया गया था, मुझे वही value return करना है. तो वो address भी चाहिए. So the place in the program where we invoke a function, that address is also stored inside the function. So you may call the function 3 times in your program, but 3 times the return address will be different. So it has to maintain the state of function. Every function has its own state, and to store that state, it will require some memory. And to create that state, it will take some time. Like a new function is born, a new object is been created. So function call is a costly affair. रिकर्शन में बार बार हम लोग फंक्शन कॉल कर रहे हैं, यानी वो कॉस्टली अफेयर में इन्वॉल्व हो रहे हैं हम लोग, हर बार एक नई कॉपी बना रहे फंक्शन की. तो फंक्शन कॉल इज ऑलवेज अ कॉस्टली अफेयर, whichever language it may be. I'm just not providing you proof of that right now in Python because it hides everything, but I could provide you a proof of the same thing when we use C and C++, not even in Java. Because C and C++ are near to the memory, we can see what's actually happening in the memory. Python hides the complexity. So you may feel क्या फर्क पड़ता है, but it has an impact time. You had that function time it. करके देखो, कोई फंक्शन को रिकर्सिवली कॉल करो, वही प्रोग्राम नॉन रिकर्सिवली कॉल करो, 20 लाख बार रन करो, you'll get to see the difference in time that is there. So remember one statement: function calls are costly. Every time I call a function, an instance of the function has to be created, where it will maintain the state of the function. That means information of the function, from where was I called, from where I had to return, what are the parameters that were supplied. Copies of those parameters has to be created. So it takes memory. So every function call requires additional memory. So more the time you call a function, more memory will be required. So avoid function calls. That means our function call doesn't mean don't write functions. Avoid unnecessary calls to the functions. Is that clear, everybody? So we have written a code which is quite, I am also happy at the end result, but I want you to look at that code that we have written. कि हमने कहाँ से शुरू किया और हम कहाँ आ गए हैं. So that study should be done, that analysis should be done. You should not just understand what I have done, you should also start, or you should appreciate what we achieved at the end. And it should become your habit of writing the code. So it should not be कि आपको याद रखना पड़ रहा है, ऐसे ही लिखना होता है कोड, ये आपको एक्सेप्टेंस आ जाना चाहिए. You may feel sir कुछ ज्यादा functions हो रहे हैं, होने दो, because this is how it has to be written. शंतनु, आपके यहाँ कहीं इंसिस्ट किया जाता है डिकम्पोजिशन, फंक्शन को छोटे छोटे पीस में ब्रेक करो, ऐसा कुछ इंसिस्ट किया जाता है?
एक्चुअली सर हमारे यहाँ पे मतलब पाइथन इज लाइक कि बहुत मतलब इसके फ्रेमवर्क्स बना के दिए जाते हैं. सो इनकेस अगर कुछ इश्यूज आते हैं तभी कुछ डिबग वगैरह करना होता है, बट मोस्टली तो सीक्वल पे ही काम होते हैं ना.
किस पे काम होता है?
सीक्वल पे सर.
ओके, तो यू डोंट डेवलप द कंपोनेंट्स
इन रेयर केसेस, लाइक अगर हम एयरफ्लो यूज कर रहे हैं तो एयरफ्लो में अगर डैग्स बनाना है तभी यूज करते हैं.
ओके, तो आप आपको वैसे कोई कोडिंग गाइडलाइंस नहीं दिए गए?
कोडिंग गाइडलाइंस इन द सेंस अगर एयरफ्लो में यूज कर रहे हैं तो उसके गाइडलाइंस देते हैं, बट उसमें मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम सिंपल ही रहते हैं, इतना ज्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स नहीं रहता है. और शेड्यूलिंग वगैरह जो भी रहते हैं वो मतलब शेड्यूलिंग टूल अलग रहते हैं तो.
Okay. But I am going to insist on this guideline because what happens is this is the right time for you to build that habit, because bad habit को break करना बहुत मुश्किल है. तो एक बार गलत आदतें लग गई ना तो बहुत मुश्किल में पड़ जाओगे. तो if you have good habits right from day one, ऐसा ही लिखा जाता है फंक्शन, भले आपको ना समझे फिर भी ऐसे लिखो. I'll tell you, I promise you, take my word, your seniors, your team members will start appreciating if you start writing the codes in this fashion. Because this is what is expected out of a programmer. There is one very good speaker. He has written a book called as Clean Code. So Uncle Bob. So when you get some time, read about the Sonar Cube. Maybe हमें कुछ बताया जाता है standards and other things. So there is another very nice book about called as Clean Code, where they talk about all the guidelines, good practices that one can follow. This may not be the right time for you to start reading that book. पहले basic concept समझो. And once we finish with this Python course, I'll tell you the right time to read that book. So after we do object-oriented programming in Python, let's finish with this Python. जब Python खत्म करेंगे, तो do read the book called as Clean Code. Note करके रखिएगा. Very nice book. And also, if possible, after we finish Python, watch the videos of Uncle Bob. Okay, लिख के रखो Uncle Bob. Fantastic speaker. You love the way he narrates or creates stories about programs, and then you have to listen to the story. थोड़ा आधे घंटे लगता है यार ये प्रोग्राम के बारे में बात कर रहा है या गप्पे मार रहा है, but then through stories he explains the concepts. So fantastic speaker, but not the right time right now. After we finish object-oriented programming. But Clean
Who
Code is
is
a
the
very nice book.
author of who is the author of Clean Code?
Yes. Clean Code author Uncle Bobby है शायद. एक मिनट. But did you find more than one book by the name Clean Code? Author is Martin Robert C. Same fellow. Uncle Bob का actual नाम है Martin Robert C. Here you go. This is the book that I'm talking about. But अभी नहीं मत पढ़ो. ये book कह रहा हूँ. क्या कहते हैं? Even bad codes can function. Bad code भी काम कर सकते हैं. But if the code isn't clean, it can bring a development organization to its knees over a period of time. Every year, countless hours and significant resources are lost because of poorly written code. But ऐसा होने की जरूरत नहीं है. तो programming is all about craftsmanship. Title ही वही है. Handbook for Agile Software Craftsmanship. So it's all about like we are craftsmen. कुछ बनाएंगे अच्छा सा, अच्छे क्वालिटी का. So I had planned to start with turtle programming. I'll take it tomorrow. आज और एक assignment लेते हैं and let's do an exercise. Okay. We worked a lot with numbers. We have worked with string right now. And अगर ये assignment solve कर पाते हैं तो string का तो आपका understanding perfect ही हो जाएगा. And let's see whether you can solve the next one. Let me think about a question. Remember that Indian scientist that I told you about? क्या था उनका नाम? Fun with numbers. I had given you some numbers from Mumbai. What was that guy's name? Kaprekar. So there we had solved some examples. For that also you should write functions. Huh? So write a function for that Kaprekar's number, whichever number that we had talked about. वो भी कर सकते हैं. But let me think about something different. Which in 15 minutes में हो सके ऐसा एक problem statement लेते हैं हम लोग. Just give me 2 minutes. एक अच्छा है. I'll provide you a solution. मैं आपको एक solution देता हूँ. ये आपके पास है तो शेयर करो. My machine is new. I don't have it. बीच में हमने एक एग्जांपल लिया था स्टूडेंट का. एक बड़ा सा कोड लिखा था. Which was that I had said you I'll rewrite that code.
स्टूडेंट्स का मार्क्स लेके
क्या शेयर कर सकते हैं? मेरे पास नहीं है वो एग्जांपल अभी.
Yes.
Can you share that code? It would be a nice challenge, you know, because वहां मैंने कहा था कि बहुत improvement का scope है वहां. So that will help us understand. Can you now design the program correctly? तो मेरे लिए design बहुत important है. My laptop is lost ना. पुराना destroy हो चुका था तो I don't have that code. I'll have to start with another laptop. तो कोई आप में से कोई share कर सके वो example तो. It would be a challenge, yeah. अगर कोई कर पाए आप लोग उसको decompose सही तरीके से. Okay, Ashish has shared it. So let me just open and see. Student data नाम का प्रोग्राम था. क्या बात है मेरे पास already. I'll call this a student data 1. Look at this now. तो आपका task क्या है अभी? कोड इज ऑलरेडी देयर, इसको रीडिजाइन करना है। पर्पस तो आगे ऊपर लिखा हुआ है, कहता है a student appears for at least 5 subjects in each semester, marks in every subjects are out of 100, validation की जरूरत है, accept name and marks of n number of students in 2 semesters and display the percentile marks of all students in both the semesters. Now the code is there with us. Look at that code. Even that time I'd say it's correct but poorly designed code. तो मुझे चाहिए इस प्रोग्राम को आप रीडिजाइन करके दिखाइए। आई गिव 15 मिनट्स, सारा लॉजिक तो है इम्प्लीमेंटेड, अब इसको कैसे आप डिकम्पोज करते हैं, कैसे वैलिडेशन डालते हैं, कैसे इसे रीयूजेबल बनाते हैं, ये आपके लिए चैलेंज है। तो दिस इज द कोड दैट इज देयर, प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट इज देयर, सॉल्यूशन इज देयर, बट थिंक अबाउट इट लाइक योर प्रीवियस वर्जन या आपका खुद का एक ओल्डर वर्जन है, अब आपका इसका नया इम्प्रूव्ड वर्जन चाहिए मुझे बाय यूजिंग फंक्शंस एंड functional decomposition मैं कहूँगा इसे। I'm just sharing this code with all of you. Share the redesigned version of the same program with me. There you go. तो सबके साथ मैंने कोड शेयर किया हुआ है। तो चलो, you have 15 minutes just to redesign this program. देखो, name should be short, name should be meaningful, decompose wherever you can decompose, do all the validations. Okay. फंक्शनल डिपेंडेंसी नहीं चाहिए जो हमने कहा था, करो। द प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट इज देयर, दे राइट इंट्रोड्यूस व्हाटएवर हम इसे कहेंगे। ओके, लेट मी यूज द राइट वर्ड ओवर हियर, लिसन टू मी। अब यहाँ क्या करना है प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट, आई कैन रिफ्रेज दिस स्टेटमेंट, आई विल से दिस प्रोग्राम हैज बीन गिवन टू यू, आई वांट यू टू रीफैक्टर द कोड। देखो मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ, आई वांट यू टू रीफैक्टर द कोड। अब ये रीफैक्टरिंग क्या है, यानी प्रोग्राम का जो आपने डिजाइन कहा है, ये देखिए रीफैक्टरिंग द कोड, इसका मीनिंग भी देख लेते हैं। मैंने कहा आपको प्रोग्राम को रीफैक्टर करना है, तो इन प्रोग्रामिंग लेट्स सी व्हाट डज रीफैक्टरिंग मीन। Refactoring the code means changing the source code of the program without changing the behavior or functionality. The purpose of refactoring is to improve the code's quality, readability, design, structure, implementation, performance, scalability, security, maintainability. Refactoring should be done in small parts and with caution, as it can introduce errors or after the software behavior has been done incorrectly. Beautiful explanation, कहाँ से आया ये क्या मालूम, but beautiful explanation about what I wanted you to do. So I want you to refactor the code. तो इस कोड को मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप ये इसे refactor करें. So I'll just add this statement over here saying refactor the code. या आपके इसमें डालता हूँ, चैट विंडो में डालता हूँ क्या एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा हूँ मैं आपसे. तो कोड has been given to you. और मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप रीफैक्टर करो इसे. तो क्या कहता है, refactoring code means changing the source code of the program without changing its behavior or functionality. वो 1 2 3 4 छोड़ दो. The purpose of refactoring is to improve the code's quality, readability, design, structure, implementation, performance, scalability, security, maintainability. Refactoring should be done in small parts, which and with caution, as it can introduce errors after software's behavior is done incorrectly. Perfect definition of refactoring. तो मैं चाहता हूँ इस कोड को आप refactor करें. चलो start. The main goal of refactoring is to make the code simpler and cleaner. If after refactoring the code does not become better and more understandable, then either you didn't refactor it properly or it has failed. That being said, don't confuse the concept of refactoring with optimization. Refactoring is not about optimization. The code becomes faster after optimization, but not necessarily simpler and cleaner. Refactoring serves to simplify and improve the readability of the code. So optimize की बात नहीं कर रहे. Optimizing improving the performance. This is to improve the readability, the design, the understandability of the code. So refactoring and optimization are two different things. So take your own sweet time, work for whatever time you can in the evening, but don't keep it pending for kal lecture ke pehle I'll do it. That kind of thing never happens. So either today night or tomorrow early morning, you should finish it so that you're not bothered during the daytime. Okay. So I expect you to have the refactored code. We'll discuss it and we'll try and build good programming habits right at the early stage of our career. So on that note, we'll stop here today. See you tomorrow at same time. Take care. Love you all. Bye-bye.